How you doing?
Hello.
Great. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
Josh Gaddis said yesterday that Charbonnet's really pushing the envelope forward lately. Has he separated himself at all?
He's done really good. He's practicing really well, and you know, all those guys are playing at a high level. So we'll see as the season goes on if anyone really separates himself in the way that you're looking for me to say.
I think Jim was saying the other week that he's coming on like a freight train. In your eyes, what does that look like to you?
A freight train or the
Coming on like a freight train, yeah. You coach him after all.
He is just really relentlessly consistent with his approach. Like every single day, he's really eager to do well. He's coachable. He likes to practice. He wants reps. He wants to play special teams, and very rarely does he make a mistake and not correct it. And it's very rare for him to repeat mistakes. So when you do that and you get like between like 220 to 275 like team reps in a camp, you're going to get pretty good if every time you screw something up it gets improved. And that's really kind of been his hallmark so far.
Where's he relative to other true freshmen you've coached
Uh,
at this point?
in a pretty good place. I don't know to compare everybody, but he's very special in a lot of ways, not just like running back ability, but just in terms of the intangibles and everything. He's more mature than most incoming freshmen at any position.
Jay, where's that competition at right now? Do you have a number one back?
We'll see come game time.
So that means you do? You're just not telling us? Or?
It's really a bunch of guys that are all practicing at a really high level, and we'll see how everybody practices today and tomorrow.
So with Zach, how do you work with a guy that he spent all of the spring injured? How do you get him up to speed?
It's kind of weird. Like a guy like that, it's not that difficult because of the fact that like when he was out, he was really mentally engaged and unusually mentally engaged, more so than most guys are. He took great notes. He asked a ton of questions, and like even from April, May. He hadn't been in the system very long, neither had anybody else. He was, at about the same level, just knowledge-wise as everybody, which just speaks a lot to how much he loves the game and how engaged he was able to stay, even though he wasn't physically out there in the field.
And is his injury still bothering him at all, or
No,
good?
no, he's healthy now.
Nico, when he was out here a couple weeks ago, said when he was out, he was like drawing up the plays on a whiteboard. Was it similar with you and Zach when he was out, or what sort of like specific things were you doing to keep him engaged?
So the great thing about Zach is like you don't ever need to ask him to do it. He's always eager to do more and ask questions, and he's always like trying to find more stuff to do. But it is some of the same stuff, drawing stuff on a whiteboard, or like texting you at 1 in the morning some question about something that happened in practice that he wasn't even in, and that kind of stuff, which is pretty commonplace amongst our players. They love the mental side of it and understand that like if they can grow in that regard, it's going to benefit them, on the field.
How deep of a rotation in your mind has been earned at this point?
Like how many guys do I anticipate playing, kind of thing?
That you would feel comfortable with?
Yeah, 5 guys really. With True and Christian and Zach, and then Ben Van Sumeren and Hassan Haskins have both been really good, and those are names that nobody really is aware of or thinks about. Guys that came over from defense and are talented guys and have really practiced really well.
Jay, Christian had such a good close for you guys last season. It seemed like he was coming around, and then got dinged up in spring. Is he back to where maybe you guys anticipated he would be right now?
Yeah, Christian is healthy now, and he's just continues to get better. Obviously, sometimes it's hard to make those improvements when you're not on the field, like you're alluding to, and he's been getting a lot better this camp. And I think like all of us, and especially Christian, are just excited to get out there and really turn some heads and show everybody what he can do.
As a former walk-on, sometimes it seems like outside of this building, True Wilson gets kind of overlooked. Why is that short-sighted?
Like why is that the case?
Like, no, why is that a short-sighted that people like overlook True? Like, what does he bring to the position, and why is he maybe a bit better than just hey, it's a walk-on that got to play?
Yeah, probably because people really like big name, high star guys. That's the nature of like being a fan and stuff, and people like the guys that are like sexier in that regard. They're more fun to talk about and more fun to anticipate playing and all that. And True's a great example of a guy who just like really doesn't care much about it and just continues to work day in and day out and has continued to get better and better and really has developed himself into a really good football player. So I'm not quite sure the answer to that, but it's just people like the bigger names, I guess.
So with your running back room losing its two most experienced players, in Karan and Chris, how have kind of the others kind of stepped up, as leaders or like to gel together, kind of?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. The guys that we have, like, they haven't played a ton. True's played a lot, but like in the grand scheme of things, really not that much. And so the interesting thing is, like, they're inexperienced, but they're super, super mature. And if you watch those guys, the way that they go through a meeting and the way they go through a walkthrough and practice, it's really impressive. There's very little nonsense. They really support each other. They root for each other. They help each other, and then they compete like crazy to outdo each other and do better than each other. So they've made it really easy on me, and really just kind of set a tone of like just constant improvement. And I think they're really going to surprise a lot of people.
How much does experience matter at the running back? Or does it?
I think it's helpful. I mean, there's certain things that you just, you don't really know until you go through them with anything in life. The great thing about the way we practice is we do a lot of team stuff of our defense versus our offense, and our defense is really good, and they do a lot of stuff that's a little unconventional. So, by getting hundreds of team reps, each one of these guys has played more this fall camp than they'll play in the season, just in terms of, exposure to 11-on-11 football. So doing that against our defense in a competitive environment, you're going to, naturally learn a lot, and I really believe that they'll be ready to play because of those experiences in fall camp and spring.
What does having 5 guys back there that you trust allow the offense to do that maybe wouldn't be the case if you only had 2 or 3 guys that you trust?
That's a good question. I think being able to play multiple guys at once is one thing. Obviously you got to have guys that are good enough to warrant doing that. So it allows you to put multiple guys on the field at once, and then it also just lets you survive a season, because it's hard to keep a guy healthy, 1 or 2 guys healthy for 13 games. It's pretty tough. So you really got to have 3, 4, 5 guys that are legitimate contributors for you to make it through a season, and we believe we have that.
What are you guys looking for from a running back in this system? Are there certain skills or a certain running style that really fits what Josh does on offense?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Being able to make plays is the big thing, because the nature of the offense, you're presented, everyone likes talking about like space and speed and space. Like, as a running back, we have more space to work with now, because the box is, there's going to be less people in the box typically when we're running the ball. So just being tough to tackle is probably the main thing, because you're going to get more opportunities where there's one guy that's going to make this either a 6-yard gain or a 15, 20, 30-yard gain, and being able to win that battle is a huge thing. So if I had to say one thing, I would put it right there.
Are all your guys pretty equal in terms of that, or is there one guy who's really good at that?
They're all good. They're all different though. Like True is much more likely to try to make a guy miss. CT is a guy who's more likely to set a guy up and outrun him. Zach is a little bit in between, and then Ben Van Sumeren and Hassan Haskins are going to run you over. And it's nice having the variety there, and they're all effective methods.
Gavs has talked about.
I apologize. We got time for one more question because I got a staff meeting.
I say Gavs has talked about liking running backs that can catch the ball as well. How have you guys been doing in that respect?
Good. We had a couple rough days in camp, not catching the ball as consistent as we would want. But like I kind of mentioned before, the way our guys operate is like, hey, we're not catching the ball great. We had a couple drops or whatever. Well, those guys are going to be on the jug machine catching balls after practice and before practice, and really working on those specific situations where those things came up, and try to become reliable in that aspect. So we're hoping that we can have some of the success that he's had in his past getting the ball to the running back, because as you continue to stretch the ball down the field, there's a lot of space underneath for checkdowns, and could be a huge impact for us. Appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you.